True and false values are stored in boolean variables in Java. You can either use primitive data types or the matching wrapper class, also spelled boolean with an uppercase B. I'm working in a project named Booleans, which you can find in Chapter 4 of the exercise files. I'll declare two variables. For primitive data types, use the keyword boolean, all lowercase. My first variable will be named b1, and it will have a value of true. The second variable will be b2, and it will have a value of false. These are the only two possible literal values for Boolean variables. Unlike in many languages, such as JavaScript, you can't just replace the Boolean keywords true and false with, say, numeric values. There is no built-in logic that says 0 is false and any other number is true. So you have to use the words true or false. They're spelled in all lowercase and don't get any quotes or other notation. If you try to output these values to the console, they'll be translated as their equivalent strings. So I'll add this code, system.out.println. The value of b1 is, and then I'll append b1. Then I'll make a copy of that and paste it. And I'll run the application, and I'll see that the value of b1 is true and the value of b2 is false. You can reverse the value of a Boolean variable by prepending the exclamation mark or bang symbol. So for example, I'll create a new variable. I'll call it b3, and I'll use the reversed value of b1 using exclamation mark b1. Then I'll make a copy of my println command. I'll paste it in. I'll change to the b3 variable, and I'll run the application. And I see that the result of reversing b1, which started as true, is now false. If you want to evaluate numbers as Booleans, you have to write the code yourself, but it's actually a pretty small amount of code. Let's create an integer value named I and set it to a value of 1. Now again, in many languages, the number 1 would have an equivalent value of true, but that equivalence doesn't exist already in Java, so we have to code it. So I'll create a variable named boolean b4, and I'll use this logic. I'll create a pair of parentheses, and in there I'll use the expression I not equal to 0. So the expression comparing the value of the integer to the value 0 is wrapped inside parentheses. That forces it to be evaluated first. And then the Boolean result, which results from asking the question, do these values match, is returned to my Boolean variable. Then I'll once again use a println command. I'll output the value of b4, and because I does not equal 0, I should get a value of true. If I change the value of int I to 0, then the value of b4 is false. So this simple expression is a very easy way to take care of the situation where you want to translate a numeric value to a Boolean value. Finally, just as with the other primitive data types, there's a wrapper class. It's named Boolean with an uppercase B, and as with all the data type wrapper classes, it's a member of the package java.lang, which means it's always available to your code. The Boolean class has a fairly small set of supporting methods. I'll show you how to use this one, parse Boolean. The parse Boolean method accepts a string value and translates it into a real Boolean. So let's go back to Eclipse, and at the bottom of the code I'm going to declare a string, I'll just name it s, and I'll give it a value of true. Then I'll create a Boolean variable, I'll call it b5, and I'll call that parsing method from the Boolean class. Boolean.parseBoolean, and I'll pass in the value of s. And finally, I'll once again copy and paste system.out.println and change to output the value of b5 and show you that the result is a value of true. Now the logic that's going on here is pretty interesting. The parse Boolean method is non-case sensitive, so I can actually spell the word true with upper or lowercase characters, even though the true keyword in Java is all lowercase. I'll make that change and show you that the evaluation still returns true. And if I change the value of s to false, either upper or lowercase, I'll get the value false, so far as expected. But what happens if you pass in a value that's neither true nor false? I'll pass in xyz. When I run the application now, I don't get an error. Instead, I get back a value of false. The logic that this method is using is, if it's not true, then it must be false. So any version of the word true will return true, and any other string will return false. So that's a look at some of the rules around Booleans in Java. Once again, you start off with the keywords true and false, which are the only available literals for a Boolean variable. You can reverse a Boolean variable using the != operator, and you can use the Boolean wrapper class to parse strings as Booleans and accomplish other tasks that are common to true and false values.